That's all right. Thank you so much, David. Thank you for taking time out of your schedule to chat with me a little bit about the spirit world. I love this. I love this topic.
Oh, you're absolutely welcome. I like talking about it too.
Yeah.
I do it all the time. Yeah.
You have great content, by the way, on your you're very authentic. You're coming across very real, right? Like everybody out there is like, hey, you tuned into this message for a reason, and if you call me and I'll charge you, $300,
I
I'll
have been I have been calling people out on I don't like to be mean to people, but there are people who are just starting a journey, and I know what it's like to literally fall for anything.
Yeah. Yeah, because you're
And
you're looking for answers, right? Like
yeah,
you don't know how to guide yourself. So there's more scammers out there than not. That's for sure. That's all I can
I
tell you.
have a lot. Yeah, I have a
Yeah.
lot of impersonators myself, and yeah, they do it a lot.
Yeah. So, okay, let me give you a brief introduction. Okay, so what happens when you die, but then come back? Today's episode is a deep dive into the spirit world with someone who's actually already been there. Now, I'm your host, Monica Clavijo, and this is the Bear Experiment podcast, where raw conversations reveal powerful truths. Now, my guest today is David Hanzel, a renowned spiritual medium who had a profound near death experience in 2015 that completely changed his life. After crossing over, David returned with an awakened ability to communicate to spirits, guides, and energies from beyond this realm. Today, we're asking the big questions. What is a spiritual awakening, and are we going through one right now? Do spirit guides really exist? Are angel numbers real? Is reincarnation happening right now? Are we shifting into the 5D reality? And are we living in a simulation? So get ready because this episode is going to expand your mind, your soul, and maybe even your reality. So please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel to never miss an amazing episode with amazing guests. And hit that notification bell so that you always know when we're on. So let's dive in. Thank you so much again, David, for taking time to speak with me today. I really appreciate your time.
Oh,
Uh,
absolutely. I love this.
so let's start let's start heavy. Let's start deep.
Okay.
Your NDE. What happened in 2015?
Well, there's a lot going to it. I'm writing a book on it, but I'll try to sum it up for you. Um, so in 2015, how everything was going in my life, um, I had my parents actually took me in to see a doctor because I had now not been walking for about almost 2 weeks. I couldn't walk. I couldn't get up out of bed. I had no energy. I was about 240 pounds, 250 pounds too at the time. I was a big guy, and I would take a breath and I would throw up. I mean, everything was terrible. It was awful. So they wheeled me in. My parents went and rented a wheelchair to get me to the car to take me to this doctor who talked to me for 10 minutes and said, well, I was coughing and all that too. He said, I'm just going to give you cough medicine and nausea medicine, and we'll see you back here in a couple of weeks. And I was like, okay, you're a doctor. I went back home. About 3 days later, I stayed at my parents' house. My parents were going up back to Wisconsin, where we're from, to visit my niece and everything. So my mom said, "You're going to be okay." And I said, "Yeah, I guess so. Who knows?" They left, and about 3 days after they left, I opened my eyes one day, and the entire walls looked like they were breathing. I mean, it was like I was on some kind of weird trip. And I crawled into the kitchen, and I crawled up on the back of my mom's chair, and I was just standing there going back and forth. And all I remember is my little brother walked in and he said, "Oh my God, you look like crap." He didn't say crap though. He said, "You look terrible."
Uh-huh.
And he said, I just looked at him. He told me, he said, "You just looked at me." And he said, "Well, that's because I'm going to die now." And I went down. And
So
then
you knew it. You knew that you were going to die at that moment.
oh yeah, I thought this is it. This is death. There was no other. Yeah, there was nothing else that was going to happen. I was so sick.
How old were you?
I was 49.
Wow. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I was 49, and I just said this is over. And I apparently they came to me to the hospital, and they called my parents from the first hospital. Said, "We have David here. He's sick." And my parents are like, "Is he going to be okay?" They're like, "We don't know yet. We're looking into it." They called my parents back, and they said, "All right, if he stays here, he's going to die. because we don't have anything to fix what's wrong with him. We think he's got pneumonia, he has sepsis going through his system, and it's all over. And they said they needed permission to take me to another hospital in Charlotte, North Carolina. So my mom said, yeah, take him. And they took me there. I don't remember being in the first hospital at all. I think I was still breathing at the time. I was just, you know, on the machines. They took me to the next hospital. I remember a brief second of a nurse trying to sign me in or just getting me to talk. And I remember just looking at her going, I don't want to be here. I'm done. I just didn't want to. I was so sick. And then when I shut my eyes, at some point, I opened my eyes again and I was no longer in the hospital room, no longer in the surgery room, no longer anywhere. I was someplace else. And I was like, oh my God, thank you. Thank you, God. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm home. I'm home. I was so happy. And then it proceeded to go on from there. Apparently, um, I remember that a surgeon saying to me before all this happened, before I clicked and left, somebody bent down and they said, just hang in there, hang in there, hang in there. And they said they had to do something to me. And I guess they proceeded to put tubes down my throat and intubate me and doing all that other stuff and hook me up to machines. And they did surgery on my left side. They broke my ribs open. They went in to put in all the chest tubes. My left lung was 70% covered in infection. And I had sepsis running through my body. And to everybody else, I was in there for about 2 months, close to 2 months. I was unconscious. The first part of it was an induced coma.
So you were in an induced coma. I was going to ask you. Okay.
Yeah, the first part. Yeah, but then I wouldn't come out of it. So they kept telling my parents he's not coming out. And they couldn't get me to wake up. And anyway, that's a whole nother story. I kind of aware of those things. Even though I was over there, I was aware.
Were you
And it was,
able to see how they explain it? Like that you're able to see your own body from above where you're laying in a coma?
yeah. It's not exactly like they would show on TV where I'm
Yeah.
actually looking down and floating above there going, oh, there's my body. It's the awareness that was there. I was very aware that that person there was very sick and it was no longer me and I was no longer there. And then then they showed me around. I saw things. Um, Long story. I went in and out of that body for 2 months. So I had the initial NDE where when they were doing the surgery and they lost me shortly, that's when we found out. They lost me very quickly, very short. While they were doing stuff, it just coded and then they got me back. That was the point, I believe, where I saw what I saw. That the first part when I went, I was just in, looked like deep space
Yes.
almost.
So so walk us through that. Like what do you,
Okay.
is it the tunnel that you're walking through and then there's a light and you walk
Here's the
towards the
funny
light?
thing. Not everybody has to go through the tunnel.
Mm-hmm.
The tunnel and all that, even after death here, and I found this out later on, and they explained that to me. Some people don't even go through that tunnel when they die completely,
Right.
because that tunnel is there it's like a decompression chamber. It's like if you swam from the bottom of the ocean up really, really fast, if you didn't decompress, you'd be sick. The same thing. If you're coming from here, you had nothing about spirituality. You only thought this was your physical life and this was it. You need some kind of transition
Right.
back to where you're going.
Okay. I like
I
that.
didn't, yeah. So I didn't need that transition because my belief system. So, but they did show me when I first got there, I was standing in this beautiful space, I guess standing. I didn't really have a body. It was just me. I could tell I was kind of, I want to say etheric.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I was sitting there looking, and it was just beautiful. I refer to it as the void. Not everybody calls it that, but I've talked to other people with NDEs who had the same thing happen. I was just sitting there staring there, and all of a sudden there was a being on my left, and there was two beings on my right, and I knew them.
With
And I just, it
family
just,
members?
no, no,
No. Just
no, not at all.
acquaintances,
That
friends that you
family
had.
member thing, that came later. Yeah. For me, see, this is going to be different because death is going to be different than a near death. Because if you're actually leaving here, you're waking up and not coming back here, that's a whole nother spiel.
True.
That's going through the light, that's going through all those other things, that's remembering who you are and all that. I was in a space where I was kind of remembering in that moment, oh yeah, this is cool, I know this. And the first thing I asked, I was like, where do I come from? Where do I come from? That was the first question that came out in my head. And I asked the being on my left, which I know who that what being is now. Those three beings are still with me today. And
Spirit
they had
guides.
been,
They're your spirit guides now.
one's an angel, I guess you could call an angel. One was an angel, and the two are guides. Yeah. And they've been with me all through this, my entire life. But this is the first time I actually met them.
Right.
So, because I didn't acknowledge them. And I'm going to call her she pointed forward, and I looked, and that's where I saw that tunnel appear, and it's on a 45-degree angle, and it was, for me, it was gold and white, and I could see just thousands of beings going through it, and some of them not wings like angels, but you could tell they were different than what they were here. Because when I asked, where do I come from, where did I go, and they're like, that's where you're going to go. And it's like, okay. And then I immediately went into, I guess you could call it a waiting room. And it's funny when I tell this story. I told it to a guy in England, and he misinterpreted it. And I'll tell you what the headline was later. But I went into this room, and it's almost like there's like a stool there, a bar stool there. Not a bar stool, but it was just a stool. It was a chair to sit on, real beautiful. And in front of me was, it looked like, this is where I think he got it wrong. If you ever went into a big nightclub and you look behind the bar and they have all those bottles up against like a glass mirror and all that, okay, it
Mhm.
almost looked like that, but they weren't bottles of booze. They were just all these colors, these segments of colors everywhere across the whole
Like
thing.
like crystal colors. Yeah.
Kind of,
Okay.
yeah. Just colors I've never seen before, beautiful, just everything. That's where that guy got it wrong. His headline was "Man dies and goes to pub in heaven," and
Well, that sounds like a fun journey too, right?
well, you know what? Now here's the thing. He wasn't entirely wrong, because what they were doing, it was they were giving me something comfortable, is what we all need. Before this happened, I was a drinker and a partier for years and years. I did stand-up comedy. I did all kinds of stuff. I was in a bar 365 days a year,
Oh,
you know?
wow.
And so when I went there, that was kind of to assimilate me while I was waiting.
Sure.
So that was a comfortable space for me. And I remember and it was just a voice that was talking to me. And it just said, so how are you doing? And I said, I'm doing better now, thank you. And I said, where is this? And he goes, well, they're going to come and get you in a moment, okay? And he was very nice about it. I said, okay, no problem. And then as I thought to myself, am I going to stay here? And then as soon as I said that, it's like almost like this piece of luggage appeared next to me, which was so funny and odd. I remember laughing there. I said, why the luggage? He goes, because you're not staying. And I'm like, no, that's not true. And anyway, that went away. And then they called my name, and I started walking. This part probably like more like a light than anything, but it was like walking through. It's kind of Greece, kind of Roman. I mean, you saw pillars, but there was no walls. Everything was white, completely white. The most white. I mean, it didn't blind you. It didn't nothing. It was just white. And I was walking up these marble steps, and they were white, and they had this black veining in it and gold. And it was absolutely, I mean, it was beautiful.
Sounds beautiful. Yeah.
Oh my God, it was. And the weird thing was too, everything was alive. I mean, you weren't just stepping on steps. You literally, everything had a consciousness, everything had a vibration, it was just like, oh, this is cool. I
It's
remember
it's
this. I
it's what
remember
it's
this.
what they it's what we talk about with spiritual awakening, where everything is one. We're all one. We're all together. We're all
Everything's
collective.
together. Yeah.
Right.
And that's absolutely
So
true.
you
And I
finally
walked
felt
up.
it there.
Yep. And I remembered it, and I went back up, and then I looked over like this railing. It's like fog, and it was like looking down into this church. Um, and the church had no religious reference. It was just how it was decorated. It was beautiful. It almost looked like a church, a cross between a church and Penn Station. And there were four people sitting down, standing there in long jackets, almost dressed the same, like almost like in 50s, 60s.
Hmm.
And the two gentlemen had hats. And I looked over and I went, oh my God, that was my grandparents. And I loved my all four. And I just kind of didn't float down there. They were just kind of, we just kind of came up together. And they were smiling and they looked so good, and they they were their age, but they didn't have wrinkles or anything. They just looked perfect, and they dressed like from the era that they felt best at, most likely, I could say.
I've read that when you do greet your loved ones that you transition, that everyone is young, that we don't
Yeah,
age,
to the
right?
yeah, not they're not all young. I mean, because like mine weren't young, they weren't in their 30s. I mean, they were literally older. They just had no wrinkles, no
But they look
nothing.
good. But they look good,
They
right?
look wonderful. And that's the way they chose to present themselves to me. And I remember I called her my Mamo. And I was so happy to see her. And she just right away, I had this smile on my face, and I was looking around like I knew they must have sensed. I'm like, oh good, I'm staying this time. And then she said, you can't stay. And she said, you're not going to. And I was like, yeah, yes, I am. Yes, I am. And immediately it started from that point on. It was rapid fire, scene after scene after scene after scene. I went through a part of a review.
Okay.
And they took me to the part of this life, this review, and then a few of the last. In every review, it was really cool because I would be me and I would be watching myself in another life. And then I would listen to what my words I was saying. And then I would be able to go into that body and see through their eyes and then come back out. It was like back and forth. And I kept telling in all these lives saying, I promise I'll do it next time. I'll do it next time. I can't. I need to leave now. I've wanted to leave in so many lifetimes. And they said, you promised yourself you weren't leaving this one. You were doing what you were going to do this time. And after I realized that, after I went through, sloughed off all the karmic crap from this life, like I grew up in a terrible childhood, great parents. I grew up hated. I grew up shy. And it was just a terrible, terrible childhood. But I went through and I'm like, oh, I totally get why those people did that to me. I totally get it. And I came back with literally not hating anybody. I mean, I don't even think I have much hate at all. I can't. It's a little different. They would put me from room to room and show me all these things. Um, there's a lot. It would go on forever. But I remember the one time where I was having to come back, and it was like they're like, okay, you're going to go completely back now. Okay, you got to go completely back. And I just felt that pull, like I'm being pulled away from them. I'm like, oh my God,
And
okay, okay.
you didn't want to leave.
I kind of did it, but I kind of understood why I did. So I kind of went. But
So
you can still feel there's resistance. There was resistance. It's like,
mhm.
do I really have to? Okay. And I remember asking, oh, and I got this, I saw all the angels. I grew up in when I was a little boy, I saw ghosts when I was a little boy. And I hated it. It was in our family, in our house, and I didn't like it. I blew all that off and just wanted to have a regular life. And that's where drinking, drugs, and everything came in there because that was the only way I thought I could have a normal life, is to forget about everything I know in my head. So this was like a reset. They're like, no, this has gone too far. We're bringing you back to who you are so you can remember. And so the angels I saw, I'm going to call them angels because that's what everybody's used to, but they don't look like, for me, they don't look like angels like you would see in a church. And there's
Okay.
no fallen angel, and 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 some people hate to hear this. There's no such place as hell. I mean, I knew that right away. I knew that as a child. My mom has a funny story about that. When I was a little boy and they took me to church and they talked about hell, I kept telling my mom, that's not true.
What
That's not.
religion were you raised in as a child?
My dad was Catholic. My mom was Baptist. We would go to a Catholic church, Baptist church, went to evangelical church. We went to a Protestant church, and I also studied with Jehovah's Witnesses for a short period of time.
Oh, wow. So
I
you get
kept
it.
doing it
You
because I
get it.
wanted to know where all this, how I knew I had all this knowledge that I came in with, and I'm like, I'm trying to figure out what religion this is clicking with, and none of them.
That's interesting because you came in with all of this interest already, right? When you were born into this body, that automatically you're searching for answers since you're a young kid. So then your near-death experience, basically, did you feel a sudden shift within you where now you were more connected than ever because you've always had this since you were a young boy?
Yeah, when I first came back, I slept it off as I was just dreaming it.
Right.
Okay.
That makes sense.
So, and because, except even though when I was talking to the doctors, when they were going to have me committed, they were going to put me in a home because they thought the sepsis went to my brain. And they told my parents that I had dementia. They said, he's showing signs of dementia. We don't think he's going to be able to come home.
No
But see,
way.
yeah, that was the day they sent me back. And I remember that day waking up, and that was hard because it's like I was thrown back in my body. I remember I said, I heard it sounded like things are being torn. It was loud. I can't even explain it. If you close your eyes and you just imagine like a giant building made of wood and they were just peeling the wood off it and they were just peeling, it was loud, it was thunderous. And then God, who I'm going to say God,
Mm-hmm.
there's a God. It's just not what people think it is. God is everything.
I get it.
Yeah,
I
it's
understand where you're
everything.
going with it.
But they kept telling me, I'm like, how will I know when God is with me? How will I know that you guys are with me? And they said, you're going to hear a phone ring. I'm like, what? Phone ring. And it's like, as soon as I heard all this um, tearing down, all of a sudden I felt like I, boom, was dropped back in. And then I heard this old time phone. It went ring, 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 ring. And I woke up and I opened my eyes and there was a nurse opening the curtains. And I just looked at her and I said, I wish my parents were still alive. And she turned around and she looked like she saw a ghost because to them, I was still not conscious.
Right. You were in a coma. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you freaked her
Well,
out. Yeah.
they took all the stuff out of me, and I was just laying there at this point with some machines hooked up to me. And she quick goes, your parents have been here every day for the past 2 months. And I said, really? And I sat there and she went and called the doctor, and then they started talking to me, and I started remembering. I didn't know why I was in there. I forgot completely why I was in there. I remember the entire dream, and I was telling him that I had to learn how to walk again. I had to learn how to talk a little bit again because I had all the tubes in my throat. My voice is a little different too now since then, but it's not a big deal.
How
Um,
long were you in rehabilitation?
I didn't, it was, I can't remember what they did. It was so hard. I left, I was in rehabilitation after even I came home, but I think it was a couple of weeks. It took me almost 2 weeks to get walking again because I had muscle atrophy from everything.
Of course.
But then they were very worried about me because I wasn't remembering people. I remembered my parents and some stuff like that, but there's other things I did not remember. But they kept saying it might come back to you. It should come back to you. So they got me home. I went through all the steps and I learned how to do everything. And there was a couple dreams that I had, I'll call them dreams that I had in there that all
While
came true.
while you were in the hospital.
Yeah, well, I was under the coma on the other side. There's a bunch of stuff that was shown to me that I remembered
So
when I came out.
like you were having premonitions.
Yeah, I had lots of them,
Okay.
and they all came true. And that's how, as they started coming true, that's how I kept going. Wait. Well, one of the premonitions I had, which is unfortunate, I went through a scene. I went through a future scene of we had a little dog named Toto, and the other two big dogs that my parents had did not like her. The girl one did not like her at all. And in that premonition, Toto got killed by the two dogs. And then there's also a premonition that it's how they showed it to me because heaven can be very metaphorical. I mean, it's really funny. But um, me and my brother were getting ready to go on a spaceship because I wanted to stay. This is when I wanted to stay there so bad yet. And they showed me having all these tests done in the hospital. And then they showed my older brother and they were getting ready to put us on like this rocket ship and they wouldn't let me go. They said, you can't go. I said, why can't I go? No, I want to go. And my brother just waved at me and he got on the rocket ship. And then I watched the rocket ship go and it blew up. And I just stood there and everybody's standing around. And I said, wait, what happened? They said, your brother's going to come, but you're not. And I went, what? So I got back probably about less than a year after birth, so about 8 months. The little dog got outside and the other two dogs killed her. And then a couple months after that, my older brother contracted stage 4 lung cancer and a brain tumor, and he died 4 months after that.
Oh my God, that's
And
crazy.
then later on in life, so the premonition for the church Notre Dame that burned down,
Uh-huh.
the fires in Hawaii, a bunch of stuff. And
You saw all this. You saw this before.
yeah, so yeah, I didn't know what they meant at
Right.
first
You
until
did.
it started happening here, you know. And
So
they made it clear enough where it's like it's not a coincidence that you saw that, right? I'm like, oh yeah. Um,
so
but
did you write down these premonitions or did you remember them as you were seeing the
some I
actual live
wrote
event
down, and
happen?
I also had an old cell phone of mine. And actually, the day before I went into the hospital, I was talking to this lady. I was trying to go back into spirituality again, and she was worried about me because she said something was wrong. But anyway, I got out of the hospital. I looked at one of the texts, and it was the text the day before I went in the hospital. And she wrote, David, the angels want me to give you a message. They said, you're going to be okay. They're going to be with you during the whole ordeal. I don't know what that means, but they said they're going to be with you during the whole ordeal. She typed that in my phone. And I saw that when I came back, and I was like, damn, she was right. They were. And do you want to know something? I can't find her to this day anymore. She's like disappeared off the face of the earth.
It's
I
what you
only knew her through the internet.
is that like one of those earth angels that you talk about in your content?
I don't know. It could be. It could be. I was mad about seeing the dog and my brother died, and I kept asking. I said, "Why? Why did that happen? Why did I have to know? We're not supposed to know when people die. We're not supposed to know these things." And they just simply said, "You wouldn't have believed where you were. That's why we let you know." So I'm like, "Oh, touche." And luckily, my brother's fine. I talk to my brother all the time. So, and it's my older brother. And my dog, too, gave me a really beautiful gift. I hear my guide's pretty good. I came back knowing that. And the angel that was with me, um, I couldn't talk to animals before I died, but I can now. And that was because of her. So I didn't even know I could do it. I was doing readings one day, and all of a sudden I had animals coming in. I'm like, oh, what the hell this is? And that was from her. So I just do my thing. I'm a conversational medium. So everybody's got the same gifts. I am not special. I'm just whatever happened, it's just I chose this. So that's all it is.
Yeah.
But everybody can speak to their loved ones, and they do hear you. They just can't always hear back. And it's not because their loved ones aren't trying, it's because the way our brains are wired, we just don't want to hear it.
Okay, I definitely want to dive into that with you so that I can better understand it. So you're educating me big time here,
Yeah.
okay? So I'll tell you a little something just so that maybe you can guide me here a little bit better. So I feel since 2019 that I've been just getting one slap after another, right? My father, who was a super important person in my life, passes away, divorce, work changes, relocated to another city. It's just been like one transition after another where now in reflection, I'm like, man, I'm amazed that I didn't break 100%, even though there were times that I thought that I would. And now I feel a little more stable, or at least I am accepting things a little more, and I'm trying to go with the flow more in life. So I ask myself, is this a spiritual awakening that's begun for me?
Yeah. In fact, it is. It's spiritual awakening. I just made a video on spiritual awakenings about mine.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, mine came in awake, then went back to sleep, and then woke back up. Spiritual awakenings take a very long time. I always tell people it has to do with the consciousness you're in. If you're in 3D consciousness, 4D consciousness, or 5D consciousness. People keep going, we're in 5D now. I'm like, no, we're not in 5D because you would be dead. Because in fifth dimension, we are not in a physical body. But you can be in 5D consciousness. You can think 5D.
You can vibrate to that to the
Exactly.
5D. Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of people here in 5D right now, and we all go like in and out from 5 to 4 to 4 to 5 to 5 to 4. You can tell. You can tell when you're in it. But what happens, you came out of 3D, you started questioning things. 4D is questioning. Once you start questioning everything and going, no, that's not right. That can't be right. Religion can't be right. This can't be right. That's 4D.
It's
You're
like
finally going,
yeah, life is never the same again after that, right?
it's
Like you
not. You can't go back to. People
mm-mm.
ask me, and they're like, would you just quit doing this tomorrow? I said, even if I quit doing this tomorrow and just went and got a job at Hobby Lobby or whatever, no, it would be in me all day long.
Right.
I talk to them all day long. They're my main source of conversation,
I love
24
that.
hours a day.
I love
Yeah.
so you talk about how we are all born with these
Yeah.
spiritual gifts, right? We just
Yeah.
through our 3D logic conscience, we block it all off, right? So how do we awaken that? How do we reawaken those gifts in order to be able to communicate with, these wonderful spirit guides and angels that are trying to guide us
Well,
for a path
we
of least
actually don't
resistance?
have to do anything to wake up. The call will just come. It's just whether you answer the call. That's it. So if you want to, the first thing you have to do, if you want to know, like to have a conversation with your father, okay, let's just say that. First, you gotta remember in your mind that outside of this world, in this world, you are daughter and dad. Outside of this world, you are two beings that have a connection deeper than mother, daughter, and dad ever could have had here. You're not dad and daughter over there. You are life recognizing another life. You are these things. I mean, it's beautiful. We're all connected to everything. But if you want to talk to that side, you got to start. Let's see, the best way I can probably say it is it's go through your belief systems. You have to start dropping belief systems. You have to start dropping them. And that's the hardest thing for people to do. You have to stop saying, once you're dead because I can't see them, so they're no longer alive. That's not true. I see them all day long. I walk and I can see stuff all day long in the
You
ethers
see
as
them.
long
You
as you
you
look.
you physically see them.
Not like you would think, like on TV, the ghost whisperer, like there's a man walking through my yard. Although I've seen people walk through and I thought, did I see something? But I see the like if I just sit here and look at a lot of people like in a crowd, I can see there's people standing around them.
Okay.
And it's not like the crowd doubled in size. It's very hard to explain.
Like a
It's
silhouette
almost
almost in between actual
kind of,
people.
yeah, it's kind of like, yeah, because we're basically look at yourself as an aura once you leave here. You're more as an aura than you are a flesh and blood thing. This is flesh and blood.
It's almost like
Okay.
it's like a hologram.
Yeah. Big
Hmm.
in a way. Yeah. This, hey, don't want anybody to think that this life isn't real. It's very real. This is
Hmm.
very real. What's happening. It's just that if you were in 5D looking at through your hand would look totally different. In fact, if you stared at your hand long enough and close enough, you'd notice your hand's moving and vibrating. Nothing sits still.
Right.
Everything's moving. But yeah, it's dropping the belief. It's dropping belief that there's someplace else. Because if you can start looking at it this way, they haven't left you. They're basically just in another room. That's it. And for
Hmm.
some reason, there's just the wall between you. You just have to learn to see through it. Now they can come through that wall and they do all the time in your dreams. Your family, they come to you all the time and talk to you all the time. In fact, a lot of times when you're sitting here and all of a sudden you get depressed about someone, that means that they're there. It's just our minds tend to translate that into sadness instead of going, oh wait, I feel there's someone here. Wait, that's them. I should be going, hey, hello, what's up?
Right.
But we don't. We just think about that for a minute and we go, oh, sad, sadness, sadness, sadness. It's like, oh, stop doing. I mean, that's okay. Grief is part of this life. But at some point you have to go, I'm not going to be sad about it. If you can sit there and you can start just saying to yourself, you know what? I'm not sad. They're not here. And I believe there's someplace else. And I believe that I will be there too. And I believe that I still have the same exact relationship I had with them when they were here.
Hmm.
A lot of times we don't do that. We go, oh, they're dead. Like when people say, oh, is your brother here? I'm like, oh, my brother passed away. Oh, I'm sorry. No, I mean, just because he passed away, it doesn't mean I don't have the same relationship. I have
Right.
the exact same. In fact, the relationship is better now. Oh, I swear at him all day long sometimes.
Yeah.
I do. I get mad at him.
You have
You left me here in this shit. Why you got to go? You
open
know.
communication now at this point,
Yeah,
right? Yeah, it's still very
yeah. And
sad,
once you
right?
start doing that, you'll get more and more signs. And that's the whole thing. People need to recognize the signs.
So the
The signs.
signs and synchronicities, right? Like I was
Yes.
watching one of your clips that you posted and I love the way that you explain it. Where you're just like that a synchronicity is something as basic as you are a writer and you're not flowing in the moment, but all of a sudden you need to go buy cake. So you go to Publix and you go to Publix, you buy the cake, and that's where you meet that person that gives you that level of creativity to go
Yeah,
and
and
write the
that's happened to me. Yeah, and
yeah.
my older brother too. My older brother, I was driving my mom around. It was at Five Below, and I dropped her off at the door. And I was going to park. A song came on, and I started thinking about my brother. Like, oh, what's up, Kevin? And I got out of the car. I go walk up to Five Below, and on the ground is a dollar bill, and there's nobody around. And I looked at the dollar bill, and I always do this. I'm like, oh, check the date and see if it's significant. And it was the year that he died. So I put it in my pocket and I said to my mom, I said, I think Kevin gave me $1 because I put this in my pocket. When I went, we drove around a little bit more. I always keep money in my wallet because if I see a homeless person or somebody needs money, I was like, here's a couple of bucks. What am I going to do with a couple of dollars? Here, help yourself. But anyway, this one time, I was getting out of the car again. My mom was waiting in there, and this old man just walked right up to me and he said, "Sir," he said, "you wouldn't happen to have $1, would you?" And I went in my wallet and I said, I didn't have any money with me that day. I said, I don't have it. I don't. And then I said, oh, wait. And I went and my brother gave me $1. So I took and I was going to keep that, but I took it out of
Yeah.
my wallet. I said, I'm sorry, this is all I can't have. And I said, but you can have it. And he grabbed both my hands and he looked me straight in the eyes and he said, I love you. And then he walked away.
That was a message from your brother.
That was Kevin. That's all
Yeah.
I wanted to say.
Oh my God, I have
But
goosebumps.
yeah, so through synchronicities, things happen. And people go, well, you're a medium. You're always going to get that cool stuff. No, the cool stuff happens to everybody. It's just sometimes we ignore it.
Right.
Angel numbers are real. The meaning behind each one isn't always going to be something perfect for you. But when you start seeing repeated numbers, that's literally the universe going, you're getting warmer.
You're
You're getting
flowing.
warmer.
You're flowing. You're
Yeah.
going with the flow.
Our guides are not there. When I meet people all the time, what do my guides look like? What do my guides have to say? Listen to your guides. They don't have to say anything to you.
Mm.
They want to bring you back. That's their job, is to bring you back to you, is to have you keep remembering you. Because once you remember you, then all the information you've ever needed will just come through.
Yeah.
As long as you just act on whatever you want to act on, just do it. Don't hurt people, but you know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Well, right.
Yeah.
Living in your authentic passion, right? Whatever sparks
Yeah.
that creativity, do it.
And I don't always do it. I try to do it myself. I can't claim that I'm 100%. I do most of the time. Most of the time I have adopted the expressions, so what? I love so what or
Mm-hmm.
whatever.
It is
Because
what it
people,
is.
you just have to. It's dangerous when you say that. It's like, it doesn't matter what happens. I don't. And people go, well, this is going to happen to the world. And what if the world blows up? I'm like, then the world blows up, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
Unless I don't have a calling to be a last survivor. So I don't care.
Do you believe that the planet is going through a mass awakening right now with everything that's happening? Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It all had to happen this way.
Yeah. You definitely see it, right? People are more openly, maybe it's social media and we just have such easy access to communicate with each other also, but that was part of the mass awakening that had to take place,
Yeah,
right?
the social media was part of the mass awakening. AI is part of the mass awakening. There's a
Mhm.
lot of things that are part of the mass awakening, and they're here on purpose. They had to be. And I always tell people get so concerned about what they see just in front of their face. Like if you would doom scroll on TikTok, you're going to just hate the world
Right,
by the time
right.
you're done. It's like stop.
We create our reality.
Yeah, they're only giving you what they want you to see, but you have always had a decision in what you absorb.
Right.
That's your decision. So when I go through something, I'm like, I don't like that. Boom, boom, boom. I do stuff like this, TikTok. I came across all these people selling stuff on TikTok. It's like, oh my God, people. And see, I can tell who's lying and who's not lying just from what I do. That was one thing I really came back with that was really strong is the BS meter. It's there. And
That's a great meter to have, that's for sure.
yeah, everybody's got it, but I mean, I trust it. I just always know. People said something to me, and looked at me straight in the eye, and I said, "You're lying. Why do you make me think that?" You're questioning that now. But I came across something like, for instance, the silicone scar tape.
Uh-huh.
So this lady's on there. Oh, you put this on, this is gonna be gone, and all these people in the things doing it. And I almost said to her, I use that stuff, and you know what? They need to know the truth. So I started to write that in there. Silicone scar tape, you can literally use any one. It doesn't have to be this one. Get the cheapest one. It's got to be used with products. And if you put it on long enough, it will eventually work. But overnight, it's only going to last for about a half hour. And they're selling something. They're selling an immediate gratification that literally isn't there. But after I started typing it all out, I went through and I deleted it. Because this is what goes through my head. This woman, maybe this is the only way she can do to get her money. And she's not really hurting anybody by selling something for $9. And then I thought to myself, if somebody has no money and they're going to spend their last $9 on getting creases done in their face, then they've got bigger things to worry about than
That's
creases
right.
in their face.
Yeah, they got
Okay.
it.
So I just let it go. but I will call out the spiritual crap and the paranormal. I did paranormal investigations for a couple of years after my NDE, and I just found it to be hilarious.
What did you do? Like go into haunted houses
Oh
and
yeah, I did a lot of that stuff. I was one of the mediums and I went through, but they would say, go to these scary places, and I was like, all down for that. Scary, scary. Yeah, yeah, I like to be scared. But I was never scared. And
you were
then
never scared. You never got freaked out.
oh, I got a couple jump scares, but
Yeah.
nothing. Yeah, no, nothing. I mean, probably I got touched a couple times in one place, and but it was more funny, and it's all on film. And we're all laughing, and you could see my shirt go up, and like, and then
No
it puts me in
way.
the side. Yeah, they're making a joke with the spirit, and it was funny, and we were all laughing. And I think the more we laughed and a good time, the more that spirit was around. Because I kept telling them, quit yelling at spirits and quit acting like a total doofus, saying, "Who'd you murder? Who did this?" And then wonder why you don't get anything. Because spirits don't care. I mean, and there's nobody stuck. That whole stuck thing, that's so stupid. For me personally, I think it's the dumbest thing I ever heard. Somebody might not know or not realize maybe that they're dead, or some might just be hanging out the house. I did
Why wouldn't they
I did
realize that they're dead? Because they committed suicide or it's too
Well,
soon?
no, because they would know if they committed suicide, they would know that's what they were doing. And they would think that this was hell then instead where they were, because they'd just be here kind of stuck going, I don't know how to move on from here. And then we have a lot of religious folk some people who are really strong in religion, they might go and think in their head that they've done something so terrible that if they go into this light, that they're going to get punished. And that's not it. Every spirit in the world will be like, no, no, hello, no, come on, you're here. You don't even need the light. Let's move on. That's it. The haunted houses weren't. There was no demons. There was nothing like that. The one we went in that was known to have all this terrible things, and they would put me in a room. Here's how they did it. They'd walk me and some other mediums around. I would walk into a room and there'd be a gentleman there with a clipboard or a lady couple, and they would just say, "What do you get from this room?" And I remember this one room I went in. I didn't know afterwards what they said about the room, but I went in there and I said, I don't know, I feel confined in this room. And I said, it feels like people are kind of stuck here sometimes. And I said, and they're not ghosts. I said, people, whatever this room was, it's not being used for what it was used before. And I feel shackles. So I said, I don't know if this was a prison room and they kept prisoners here or something. And I said, and then I got this dude in my head, and I was like, what is this place? And he said, it's where they kept people. I'm like, for what? And he's like, prison. I'm like, okay. And I said, who is in here? And he said to me, all their names are on the green ledger in the museum. I'm like, okay, thanks. And then I went to those guys and I said, it feels like there's a prison here. There's a gentleman that's still watching over it. He's very cool. He said you can find all the names of the prisoners in a green ledger at the museum. And I didn't know. I was in the middle of Indiana in the corn cobs, and
Mhm.
they both look at each other and they're like, "Where?" I said, "The museum." I said, "Is there a museum around?" He said, "Yeah, right uptown. There's a museum for this place." I said, "Oh, well, check it out." Anyway, they found out the next day. They said the green ledger's in the museum
That's
and it's under
crazy.
glass. Yeah, and they made sure that that was a room where people were whipped and hurt and all that stuff. No, it was literally a prison. They kept people down there. It was an old asylum at some point. And there's also another woman in there that was she killed herself in there, and so they made her room really terrible. And I was in there and I talked to her, and she wasn't crazy or mean. She did kill herself. She was put into that home because she was going through was it menopause or something like that?
Uh-huh.
So back then they didn't acknowledge that, and the husband dropped her off at this
Yeah.
psycho place
You can
to
go
leave her
batshit
in there to
crazy when
die.
you're going through menopause, that's for sure.
Exactly, and they
Yeah.
put her in there, and that's what she was. And yeah, I mean, she hung herself in there. She didn't want to be there anymore.
Yeah.
So
When
so stuff like that. But yeah, the paranormal stuff, it's they sense it's real. Ghosts are real. Stuff like that's real. Yeah, I believe people can I see something negative. That's fine, but there's not a demon around every corner, and nothing's holding you down while you're sleeping and causing you sleep paralysis or anything like that.
are
I
there
just
are
don't believe in that stuff.
with all of the different divination tools that are
Mhm.
available for mediums to use, you always hear about, like, for example, the Ouija board. Now that we're talking about like entities and demonic entities, are there is there a possibility that a demonic spirit can come in because of your low vibration through a Ouija board, for example?
Okay. Well, Yeah, we'll see. We can say demonic, but demonic for me is just basically really negative. Um, so that's all it is for me. Yeah, if you go ghost hunting and you're drunk and everything else, and there's a spirit there that's not really that great because there's jerks on both sides between the
Right.
worlds, you
You
know.
bring your personality with you.
Yeah, you do at least for the first part. So in the ethereal world, the astral plane, which is where the ghosts would be and all that, I guess you would call it that. Um, yeah, if you're drunk and all that, yeah, you're going to be influenced by things. You're going to be influenced by energies. Energies don't have to have a name, and energies don't have to have a form to be negative. It can just be
Okay.
that energy. You can pick up on that. Um, yeah, I guess you could Ouija board, kids play it. Here's the whole thing with the Ouija board. It's a tool. If you don't believe the Ouija board is going to work, guess what? It's
So
not
it's your
going to work.
we go back. It's our belief system as well,
Yep.
right? With
It's
whatever.
always your belief. Yeah, it all goes back to your belief system or what belief system you're fall for, like curses and stuff. I laugh. People make literally hundreds of thousands of dollars every month removing curses from people. And it's
Yeah.
just, oh, I've had people come to me. I've got a curse. And I said, really? Who told you you had a curse? And they would tell me this whole thing. And I said, well, they lied. You don't have a curse in you at all. These bad things happen. I'm like, that's accountability. There's bad things that happen to you. You just kept blaming it on a curse. So every little bad thing that happened to you, you said it was the curse.
Yeah.
And, that, and
I'm
it was,
yeah, I'm of Cuban descent and Santeria is a big
oh, yeah. So, yeah,
practice. And yeah, oh, you have a curse on you. Somebody really hates you, but I can take it away for
exactly.
$500. You got to go get a chicken. Bring me the chicken. And then bring me a piece of your clothing, and then you're gonna drop this with a bunch of eggshells in the cemetery, and it's gonna go away for $1,000 or whatever it is,
Exactly.
you know.
And
And
it's like the curse works if you are a believer.
right,
Yeah, it's like I tell people, if bad things start happening to you after somebody tells you have a curse, you've always had bad things happening. It's just now your mind is attaching what they said to those bad things. That's all it is. It's the same as getting your lover back. Oh, I love that one.
oh, I
I
saw
want
that.
my ex back.
I saw that
Sure.
one. I saw those clips. I love those. Which I want to ask you about that and twin flames and all that fun stuff with love.
Yeah.
But right, like, I want my ex-boyfriend back. How do I get him back? Well, let's. I'm gonna give you a little spell that we can work on to bring him back. I mean, that's all BS, right?
It is. It
Yeah.
is. Now, listen, I do agree that everybody does create their reality. But so everybody you see, you're the one who's actually creating who they are to you. It's you're doing it. So like me and you could be sitting here and this gentleman could walk in named Larry and I would be like, "Hey Larry, what's up? You're really cool. Larry's really cool." And then you after he left, you'd go, "Hey, I know Larry. Larry's a freaking jerk." I'm like, really? Where would you get that from? I don't see that in Larry. That's because I need to see Larry in that way in order for me to do whatever his purpose is for me here. And you need to see him in that way to do whatever purpose you need here. So people are all different things
Everybody's
to us.
perspective on everything is different, right?
Everything is
Yeah.
different. Nobody has the same
Mhm.
perspective of anything. Now, if you want your lover back, hey, is it possible to get your ex back? Sure. And even if the spell works, yeah, whatever. Guess what though? If you didn't fix everything internally that was done wrong with it the first time, they're not
Right.
staying. You just spent a bunch of money because you hounded somebody because they told you, here's what you have to do. Show up at the same place they are all the time. Do this all the time. Do this all the time, and they'll be back with you in your life. I always tell people, if it's your ex, why do you want them back?
Right. Right. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, why? I've asked people before that come on. I met this guy and we were together for 5 years and then he left me. And I really want to get him back. I'm hopeful for it. And I'm like, what are you hopeful for? I don't know, I just want to come back. Why? Because he was a really good guy. He wasn't that great of a guy. He dumped you for something. What
Right.
did he dump you for?
Right.
Oh, well, he met his ex came back to him and I said, okay. He literally after 5 years said, okay, my other ex is coming back, so I'm dumping you. No, we're gone, dude. You're gone. Get out of here. I try to, every woman or man who tries to ask me that in a live, my guides every time will chime in. They're like, you need to empower these people.
Right.
They need to know that they are fine and they don't need that crap. They've already had it. They're done.
Right.
And I
Yeah.
hate to do that to people, but I can't lie to people. I will ask them straight out, why do you want them back? What's
Right.
the reason?
Right. Yeah. The union that you guys were supposed to have together and the lessons that you were supposed to experience, been there, done that, next.
There's,
That's it.
there are times there. there are times where like somebody, maybe a man and a woman or a woman and a woman or a man and a man, they would be together and maybe something happened in the family. So that person stepped away from the relationship, possibly. I have to step away. I don't know what I'm doing. So you said, okay, I love you enough to say you go do what you need to do. But then I can see later on after that's done, you going, hey, I'm going to let them know I'm still available. I understood they needed that time. And then they come back and that can be a wonderful relationship again. It depends on what the circumstances are.
So is there any truth to the twin flame theory?
I don't buy the whole twin flame crap. I mean, it's true, but like I made that video, twin flames and soulmates came from a play.
Hmm.
They were described in a play. Now, everything in the past, it was sent here in some form for us to work with it. So, is there another half to us? No, you're already whole. That's a lie. You're whole. You're already
Yeah.
there. There is no other half. But is there another soul that is all the things that you are not? That would be your twin flame. You are mirroring each other. If I'm really, really brave, my twin flame was probably really, really much a coward. And we will mirror things back to each other. Twin flame relationships, if it's a true twin flame, they usually end in destruction.
Right. I've read about that.
And
Yeah.
most twin flames don't incarnate in the same timeline. I've been told that one. I don't know if that's completely true. My guides alluded to it, and not that I don't trust my guides, but I keep telling them something doesn't sound right in that. So you're not explaining it to me well as a human being. But they always tell me too, you wouldn't purposely do that to yourself unless that's something you needed to learn.
Or you're
But
ready to learn it,
ready.
right?
Now, soulmates is a true thing, a very true thing. But soulmate doesn't mean love. Your dog could be your soulmate. Cat could
Right.
be your soulmate. Your
Your
grandma, your
child.
grandpa.
Right.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. I tell people we might have had a plan when we came in here, like, I'm going to meet this person when I'm 35, and then we're going to live happily ever after. You might have said that, but then you got here. I always tell people when you write your contract, that's quote unquote, write your contract. That's just a human way of saying it.
Hmm.
I was telling anybody, you didn't really write a contract. What you wrote was a screenplay. And since you're the actor, you're the producer and everything else, you
You
can
can
change your
change it.
screenplay at every moment. And
Hmm.
we do. And we do to suit whatever we need. And then we come in with possibilities. People say, I know I couldn't have written this in for this stuff to happen to me. It's like, well, no, that's true. Not exactly as it happened, but you knew there was a possibility. You just thought you could avoid it, but maybe you didn't. But at the end of this life, nobody's going to go back and go, you shot me in the face while I was in life. You won't go that hurt because you'll be like, yeah, no, that's just something that happened.
Hmm.
You know, we're different when we go over there. The people that you despise here aren't always the people you despise there. And most of the people that are here to teach you a lesson when they're like bad to you or something, not like, I'm not talking like evil bad. I'm
Right.
talking like, your
Yeah.
friend who stole money from you and then you're no longer friends anymore. Those people came in to teach you something.
Hmm.
Who better than to agree to, hey, why I'm there? I'm friends. You said you wanted to learn something about trust. So we'll do this and I'll do that. And this could happen. And then you're like, oh yeah, let's do that. But, we forget.
Let me ask you about reincarnation. You talk about how it does exist, but it's happening at the same time and
That's
parallel.
the hard thing. Theoretically, Theoretically, yes, there is only one moment. You can even in metaphysics, everything. There's really no such thing as a different moment. It's all the same everywhere. I mean, the entire universe, it's all the same moment. We're all the same. We are the thought in God. So we are the thoughts of God, if you want to put it that way. Everything is the thoughts of God, and God being all things put together make up God. So it's like if you took all the water in the world and froze it into one frozen ball, that's what you would call God. But everything in there is still a separate
To
being.
create it. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, everything's happening now. I believe that now because of how they showed it to me in real life, in real time, to understand, this is what's happening. So yeah, you don't have a pet when you die in a life, you're basically that life didn't really end. It's still going on in a sense. Look at yourself as a book. Inside the book, every chapter is a life that you're living.
Mm-hmm.
Just because you finished a chapter doesn't mean the chapter got torn out of the book. It's still in the book. All the thoughts, all the memories, all the everything of that life are still going on in the main who you are.
So is
We're
this
having more than a lot of lives. I don't know how many lives that are. I cannot get that out of them. And I've asked several times how many lives can we be having at the same time? And sometimes it's like you could be doing 3 or 4 lives right now in the same timeline in different parts of the world.
so is this what quantum jumping is?
Quantum jumping is taking the life you're in and um, skipping ahead to the future is already written out. So here's quantum jumping. The future's already written out, so is the past. There's many, many, multiple futures. Okay. So let's say I want to be, we'll do something easy. I want to travel. I want to live in China now. I just in my head, I want to live in China. Okay. If I can think about it or perceive that, then I know at some point there is me living in China somewhere. All I got to do is connect with that. So you're going to jump. So once you start assuming all that you live there and that goes through your head, you're going to start meeting up. The world is just going to start placing things in front of you in order to get those two to be. And after a while, you're just going to end up being that person. Like I saw my future self. You can do that. I saw a really cool future self of mine that popped in one day, and I was like, "Oh yeah, that's good. I like that. I remember that. It makes sense." And I was like, where I was, I didn't know exactly where I was, but I saw myself, and I was like, "Wow,
How how
I
how,
accomplished."
how did you see yourself in a dream? Just a
No,
vision?
I was just sitting here one time, and it gets it's hard for. I mean, once people, if you study this, you get the call. A psychic vision isn't just your imagination going. It is. It starts with imagination. So you're like imagining something. What happens is it's it's a type of an imagination, but it's so real. You're like everything around you stopped. It's just there.
Hmm.
It's like you can't think of it's like it's not like I'm just, oh, what are you doing? Oh, I'm daydreaming about sailing on the ocean. And you can like think about yourself sailing in the ocean, if
Hmm.
you have that power to visualize things. But no, this would be like you're stuck. Now that's been happening all my life. As a child, I used to get stuck on a daydream that was so real. My friends they always say to me now, they're like, we always wondered why you would stare and you would like, it was like they had to literally go, David, David.
That's so
I'm
funny
like,
that now
oh,
that you say that, my uncle who used to always tell me that, like, hey, come back, get back over here. It's like
yeah,
I would
because
just like stay stare. Yeah, I would just stay staring
you
at the
get
wall.
so caught up. Yeah. And mine was, there was a bookcase. It was black bookcase and it was dark mahogany wood. And I was sitting on it. And I don't know how old I was, but my hair wasn't quite this long. It's probably about like up to here, but it looked different. It was more silver and brown. And I had more of a beard and I had all this jewelry on. And I was sitting just like that on the chair with all these books behind me. And I was like, oh, I it felt right. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a feeling.
It's like
It's a
I
feeling.
remember that even though it hasn't happened for me yet, but I remember it. It was a photo shoot.
Yeah.
And I could remember and then that's the one thing I couldn't get. I keep asking my guys, why was I seeing through the camera? Because I know there was lights on him. So
Uh,
somebody was taking a picture of me for something. So I'm like, was that a book or a magazine? What was that? You know,
I love
but
it.
I don't know.
I do got to tell you though that I love, love, love your hair. When
Oh,
I'm
thanks.
when I'm watching your content, I was just like, I gotta go get a haircut. I gotta get my hair layered. Like you have like the best hair ever.
The only reason I had it short for so many years, and I wanted long hair as a child. I was a musician as a
Hmm.
child, as a rock star, and I could never grow my hair real long. It would stop about here,
Yeah.
and I grew up in the '80s and all this. And then when COVID hit, we got a chance to grow our hair. I just started growing it, and then I just stopped getting a haircut. I'm like, I want to grow it. It's like I just have to. I don't know why.
It looks great. It
And
looks absolutely great.
well, when after my coma, real quickly, just so you guys know how things work, because I talk about odds. I don't do odds. Odds are silly to me. Well, about a month after I came home from the coma, I rode on a moped I was on. My dad said I could ride it. But anyway, I was going down the road about 25, 30 miles an hour. A light changed and
Oh my
my
God.
brain wasn't all there. And I went to hit the brakes. The back brake didn't work, just the front brake. So I lifted up
Mm-hmm.
and flew into the middle of the intersection. This is a month out of the hospital.
Jesus.
And I would tell people, somebody literally grabbed me and set me down because I did not feel it. I was unconscious too for a couple minutes. But they put me on this medications afterwards, and it was some high blood pressure medication. And my hair was falling out. I mean, literally it was coming out in clumps. And I looked up, I went to call the doctor. I was like, my hair is falling out. And he goes, "Do you want to make an appointment?" I said, "Yeah." So I went and I looked at this medication on the blood pressure medication. It said 1 out of 10,000 people experience severe, hair
Hair
loss.
loss.
So I went in by him and he looks at me and he goes, "David," he goes, "you're just getting old." And I said, "No." At the time, I was like, I was just turning 50. And I said, "No, I'm only 50 years old. My dad has hair. I have hair. This isn't it. This is falling out. This is different." He goes, "Well, I think it's just because you're getting old." I said, "It's the medication you gave me." It said 1 in 10,000 people can,
Lose their hair.
get hair loss. And he said, "What makes you think you one in 10,000?" And I said, "This. That's what makes me think that. I'm 1 in 10,000." He goes, "What do you want me to do?" I said, "Change my medication." He did. My hair grew back.
Yeah, there you
So
go. You knew.
I always tell people the odds, odds and predictions are only there when you believe them. It's like
Okay.
odds of dying in a plane crash. Like they tell me, I hate flying. The odds of dying in a plane crash are this,
Are
and that. It's like,
one in
well,
a
I
million.
already know I beat the odds several times in my life, like coming back from death, beating all this other stuff, my hair coming back. So no, I'm not getting on a plane because I know
Right.
my odds. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. You're a smart man.
Yeah.
So tell us, what is the best way to raise your vibration on a daily basis, right? Like, life happens. It's a difficult world that we live in, or at least, right, perception.
Yeah.
But what is a good practice that you can encourage and recommend with your knowledge?
This is the best thing I can say to do is one, please go through all your belief systems and find out which ones actually work for you. If you have a belief system that's holding you back from stuff, get rid of it. You don't need it. You don't need it. Get rid of it. I understand our parents taught us certain things. They had to, and we teach our kids certain things, but they didn't teach us to us because they said this is the golden rule. This is how it has to be. It's just because that's what they knew. Get rid of the belief systems before you go to bed. Don't go to bed angry at yourself. Try not to. Okay. And when you wake up, I do this every morning. I wake up, I've got cats and animals. I love animals. I wake up and I smile. I'm like, yay. And I always go, yeah, I'm here again. I don't worry about what's going to happen during the day anymore. Not, I mean, I've got the upper edge. I don't fear death whatsoever. I have zero fear of it. I don't care about anything here. You could burn down my house and tell me I'm homeless. I'd still go, that's okay, because everything is still going to be taken care of for me. I'll still be fine. It's just always going to be there. Once you know this, your whole day is just better.
Do you
You're just
practice?
happier.
Do you
Yeah,
practice?
look at every person you see, whether you hate them or not. Every person you see is has God in them. That's how I look at it. Everybody's God. Everybody you talk to is God. Everybody you talk to is also you talking back to yourself. We
Mm-hmm.
are all connected. So if you can remember that, stop hating people, start saying stuff like, so what?
So on. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so what? I don't think you're going to be able to make that, plane today at 4 o'clock. So what?
Right. There's a
I'm not
reason.
going to make it at 4. What am I going to do? Sit here and worry about it? No, I'm just not
Right.
going to make it at 4. I'll make it at 5 or the next day, wherever I can. Yeah.
Is there any truth to practicing a daily gratitude, calling to your spirit guides, guardian angels for a path of least resistance on a daily basis where they actually come in and hear you out?
Affirmations are wonderful. I think you should. I will tell people though, instead of always talking to your guide, which is fine, guides are there. I mean, my 2 guides, these guys, they usually help me during readings. They talk to me during the day. They don't tell me how to live my life or what's coming up. They don't tell me that. If everybody says, "What does my guide say was going to happen next week?" I don't know. They don't care. It's whatever you think. It's whatever you bring up is what's going to happen next week. Like when I do predictions, or somebody asks me a psychic question, like, am I going to get the job? I sit in their energy for a minute and I can tell from their energy where they're going. I can just tell where it's pointing off to. So it's like, yeah, they're pointing off to that because they got this, that going on. So yeah, most likely that's going to happen. But
Because
then
you're not right, because you're not necessarily seeing an actual prediction of the future. You're reading an energy, and based on that
yes,
energy, that's the direction that you're headed in.
Yes. Now we can see predictions of the future. We will see things that come into our heads, but when they come into our heads, that even doesn't mean that it's going to happen. That's kind of a heads up when those
Hmm.
happen. It's like, hey, you have that. You can change this. So every once in a while, I will say people. I've had people ask me, should I buy that house? And I'll get this quick image. I'll be like, oh yeah, you're signing. They're signing papers. Yeah, you're signing papers. So yeah, you're gonna get a house. Yeah,
Hmm.
you're on
Hmm.
that. But I like gauging by being in the people's energy. I don't mind stepping into someone's energy as long as they don't mind me doing it. That doesn't harm them in any way. I always ask people, when you ask me a question, that's always been my disclaimer. I will never answer a question without being asked, which means I'm just not going to give you my 2 cents worth out of the
Right.
blue. I don't walk up to people and go, your dead grandmother wants to give you $50 million. I don't do that. If somebody to walk up to me and ask me a question, my guys always said, not without being asked. As soon as they ask the question, you can reach the answer,
Yeah.
you know. So, but yeah, doing affirmations, just saying, yeah, knowing that you can have something. You got to get rid of the belief system that seeing is believing. Everybody's got to get rid of that. Get rid of that.
Hmm.
Believing is seeing. Once you believe it, you're going to see it. You have to wholeheartedly believe it first,
Hmm.
then you'll see it. So it comes a lot faster too. But affirmations are great. Anything you can do to talk to yourself, your higher self, walk around the house and talk up to yourself.
Hmm.
When you look in the mirror, you should be saying, even if you're having a crappy day, like don't wake up in the morning and see the bags in your eyes and go, ugh. And if you do, I want you to laugh about it. Oh, look at me. I can fix this. I'm just
Yeah.
gonna,
A little
be
makeup.
optimistic. Yeah. Just look at it and do that. And you're automatically gonna look younger. Just automatically. When you see yourself looking better, you just are going to.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Okay, so David, for anyone that's listening right now and may feel like they're going through a spiritual awakening, what advice do you have for them, whether it's they're going through grief because of a loved one, just to close out the episode? Any advice that you can give to
If you
somebody
feel like
that's
you're going through
struggling?
Yeah, if you feel like you're going through awakening, which is very hard because the world starts to crumble around you.
Right.
It's gone now. It's like, oh my God, all these things are lies. That's all you got to do is tell yourself, okay, they are lies. So I'm going to find the truth. And when you do find the truth, remember this. Don't just go, okay, I'm going to listen to every one of David's TikTok videos and David's my truth. No, I don't want to be your truth. I'm going to tell you, I'm always going to be the guy. I want to point you back towards yourself. That's all I want to do. That's all I care about. I'm going to tell you something to challenge you and you figure out what it does for you, you know? And you got to do that to yourself. If you don't like what's going on in the world politically, then you know what you do? You take yourself out of it. I'm not in it
Yeah.
anymore. What does that mean? It doesn't mean you're not going to be affected by the collective consciousness, but it does mean that you don't have to subscribe to it. When you're also going through awakening or going through grief, remember, we choose the feeling. Nothing outside us gives us the feeling. We choose the feeling. And so it's like if somebody's ice cream fell on the floor, like if I have ice cream, it fell on the floor. If it's a little kid, he might be, okay, it fell on the floor. So his feeling he's going to choose is, I no longer have ice cream. I'm sad. This is terrible. It's
Yeah.
awful.
Temper
Someone like
tantrum.
me, yeah, someone like me drops ice cream on the floor. I'm like, oh, what a doofus. That's
Yeah,
hilarious.
I'm an
I'll
idiot.
go get another one, kick it all over. We decide how we want to, stop reacting to every little thing and
Stop
just kind
reacting.
of
Hmm.
accept it, flow with it for a moment instead of reacting. That's the best way to get out of an argument too. When somebody's yelling at you, just sit there and go, that's interesting. That's my favorite line to do when someone's yelling at me. I was just to go, well, that's interesting. What do you mean that's interesting? I mean, it's interesting. There's nothing more to say.
That's one of the things that I have, I believe, able to grow a little bit with, where I was very reactive to
Yeah.
every emotion that I was feeling at the moment. I'm a very emotional person, and I've learned to kind of like, if somebody's really making me angry at the moment, like step back, don't answer. Hey, listen, let's have
Yeah.
this conversation a little later. Don't
Empaths.
respond. Yeah.
Exactly. And if someone's an empath, that's what they got to need to do too. I know empaths, everybody's an empath though. Everybody is. Some people just feel more. And I get that. Being a medium, I feel all kinds of stuff, but I've learned to go, oh, that's not mine.
Right.
That's it. That's all. That's very easy. You just got to know,
You're feeling that
So
person's energy at that point. You're picking
yeah,
up
I
on
do it
that.
all the time. I walk into a store. Sometimes I'll just be like, or my parents. I'm in a family that is very out of control, very chaotic, and
Uh-huh.
I'm very mellow. And I'll walk into their house and I'll be like, I'm gonna go inside.
Yeah.
That's it. I don't yell at them. I don't react to them. I don't do anything. I'm gonna go outside. That's all I gotta do. That's it makes for a lot happier life. Once you know that you control everything, you put yourself back in control.
Yeah.
You control everything. And if something doesn't go your way, it's not going your way because you suck or anything. It's not going your way because there's something better. So all I gotta do is just look around that. It's
Right.
usually, yeah, and stuff doesn't happen to you, it always happens for
For
you.
you. I love
That's
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's a we all say that, and I didn't capitalize on that one. Everybody said my guides have said it. Other people say it. Everybody says it. Everything that happens is happening for you because you want to learn something from it. And as soon as you say to yourself, "Huh, I learned from that," everything tends to get really good right
Hmm.
afterwards.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So, David, if anybody is interested in some of the service, so what are some of the services that you offer?
Oh, I do all kinds of stuff. I will tell you though, if you follow, if people on TikTok see this, if you go in the link in my bio on TikTok, it's cheaper. Um, I do like 45-minute readings, 30-minute readings, 60-minute readings. If people just want email readings, I do something called an oracle reading. I love oracle readings. You can write to me and you can ask any question. And it's all in the preparation of how I do it. And I read out the question, but I literally sit here with my guys and we just talk out the entire thing and then we type it out as we're talking and get it done. And it's coming from them. They're literally looking. Oracle doesn't give you predictions, but it literally gives you almost like like if you're playing a sports, it gives you like the game plan to win. And that's really cool. I do all kinds of stuff like that and mediumship readings, sometimes just spiritual stuff.
Do you
Some
have
people just have
do you
questions.
offer any type of courses or
I don't as yet. I'm probably every once in a while I will do certain courses and I might later on, but this is the thing. This is what I don't like to gatekeep information. If I can show you how to do something, I'm just going to do it for free. Okay. Now, if there's a demand of something they want to know, and if I think that I could teach it to you, then I'll do a course. I've done them in the past and they're usually never more than like 25 bucks. I don't charge that $500 course to live your life on this and that and everything. I don't believe in those. Um, if that's what you need, hey, that's cool. Maybe you need that in this life to take a course for $3,000 to
right?
do something.
Yeah.
That's fine. I'm not talking against, but I don't do that. But otherwise, they can just go check me out at theywhispertome.com.
Okay.
And all my socials are in my link trees, and that's it. I mean, they can hold me when I do stuff. I usually announce it on Facebook or my socials, or I'll put it on my website.
So
Um,
you have TikTok, you have Facebook. I'm assuming you have Instagram as well.
Instagram, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. Oh,
Do you have
I'm a
YouTube?
writer. I'm a writer. So if you go, I do have a YouTube, but I am bringing that back up. I just got out of a terrible podcast that I was in for 2 years, and I just finally got out of it. I hated it.
Mm.
Long story. That's a whole another show. But yeah, I have YouTube. I'm going to start making my YouTubes and going live on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
If I do a lot of deep writing about NDEs, the afterlife, the nature of emotions, all that stuff, and that's on Substack.
Okay. Okay. So
So
I'll
I'm
go
a writer
ahead.
on Substack. Yeah.
I'll go ahead and I'll add all of these links at the bottom of the YouTube episode once I post it,
All right, thanks.
so
Yeah,
that
it's Medium
everybody.
David Hanzel for all my socials, and it's just David Hanzel for Substack.
Okay. Okay, awesome. David, thank you so much for taking the time to share all of your knowledge. This is
Oh, my
great. This
pleasure, and thank you for listening.
Yeah, I definitely want to keep learning and just understanding this a little bit more, right? I feel like every day I'm growing more and more as a person and as
And
I'm
that's the right way to do it. That's the right way to and just listen to
yeah,
everybody and just
as
you'll
I'm
it'll resonate your truth.
no, and as I'm flowing with it and being more open to it, people like you are coming into my space where, I'm receiving the answers that I'm looking for. So I love it
Exactly.
because I am seeing the
Exactly.
synchronicities with what I'm projecting out there already. So
Perfect.
yeah, yeah. So thanks again, David. I really appreciate your time. I'll be posting this episode tonight for everybody to view. Please, everyone, consider subscribing to our YouTube channel and sharing this amazing episode. All the information to reach David will be on the bottom of the YouTube clip. So thanks again, David, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
Thank you, you as well.